Today on the Overcorrection, the initial report from the recent Air India plane crash has led to heated debates between the murder-suicide theory and insinuations of a corporate cover-up to blame the pilots. We're going to be talking about both of these extremely disturbing possibilities. In other news, Everest and other major Indian spice producers are facing bans on some of their products in the UK, the US, and several other countries due to, you guessed it, high levels of contamination. Now, you would think that after the spate of adulteration scams that were revealed last year, the FSSAI would have woken up to the problem. But unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case. We're going to talk about what this means for India's reputation in the global market, sure, but also what it means for our own health. And finally, directives and rulings coming from the Maharashtra government and the Supreme Court of India have animal lovers up in arms, because their ability or right to feed pigeons and stray dogs in public is being curtailed. We're going to look at the reaction of the public from both sides of the argument, and then I'll tell you what I think about this mess. All this and more coming up for you in the Overcorrection. Stay tuned. The Federation of Indian Pilots has accused the Wall Street Journal and Reuters of publishing misleading information. They've issued a formal legal notice and have demanded an apology. Now, what is all this about? A few days ago, a report was released by the investigative authorities, an initial report, I might add, not the final one. And it seemed to imply to certain people, famous influencers such as Captain Steve, etc., that this crash was the result of a murder-suicide committed by one of the pilots. Now, as you can imagine, this was an extremely sensationalist headline that had a lot of reaction from the public. The video was viewed a lot of times, millions of times, shared millions of times, and many international commentators have gotten in on this trend. It had raised a discussion about pilots' mental health, and that seemed to be where the entire narrative was going. Meanwhile, companies like Boeing had an uptick in their stock prices, which were taking a big hit after the recent crash. What happened a few days after that is that the Indian authorities and Indian commentators have done a more detailed deep dive into this report and found it to be, quite frankly, extremely shoddy work. It has neglected to mention several key details and seems to have been written in a very biased fashion. One which people say clearly wants to paint Boeing in a very good light and point everything towards a pilot error, or rather, a pilot horrific choice. Now, before we get into some of these misgivings, I want to say two things. Firstly, that the final report is still not out there. So everything right now is still more or less speculative on either side of this argument. Secondly, I want to say that murder-suicide by pilots is not unheard of. Famously, a German pilot committed a murder-suicide while flying a commercial plane. In fact, there have been speculations that the Malaysian Airlines flight that went missing was a murder-suicide. It tends to be that the governments from these countries or the stakeholders involved don't want to accept that there was a murder-suicide that took place. So now let's look at some of the points made by other commentators discussing the shortcomings of these accusations made against the pilots.
It seems to have been written to suggest that the pilot deliberately did it.
टाइम है 11 जुलाई 6:47 ये मैच करता है इस टाइम से जब तब इंडिया में 12 जुलाई सुबह के 4 बजे होंगे और एक्चुअली 12 जुलाई को ही एएआईबी ने रिपोर्ट 3 बजे रिलीज की थी। तो इनको एक दिन पहले कैसे पता चल गया कि पायलट एक्शन था और प्लेन के फ्यूल स्विचेस के साथ कुछ तो गड़बड़ है।
This bulletin was prompted by a report that indicated that foreign object debris (FOD) may have been introduced during maintenance or rework of certain EFSS units. The FOD risks include, and number one, uncommanded activation of the engine fuel shutoff valve. That is exactly what this report is talking about in this particular aircraft. So Boeing and FAA recognize that foreign object debris (FOD) could cause an uncommanded activation of the engine fuel shutoff. It also says inability to actuate the fire handle. And then it goes away. The key takeaways, if you look in the last line, the biggest, effective 18th Jan 2023, the largest hazard, it says underlying hazard, FOD, leading to uncommanded shutdowns or failure of fire handles and, of course, obviously the engine shutoff. These failures could lead to serious hazards, including uncontrolled fires, dual engine shutdown, or total thrust loss. I mean, what is our AAIB has not seen this? So Wall Street Journal talks about a potential disagreement between NTSB and AAIB. What was that disagreement? Why did the investigators leave early? There's so many questions, and now in light of that, Okay, immediately on the report, Boeing says there's no problem with anything. Then Etihad starts orders all, checks on all its 787s. Singapore Airlines has done it. Now, one by one, they're all asking for their carriers to do this. What's going on? So therefore, there was enough of doubt. I'm not saying pilots did it or didn't, exactly like Abhijit. When there is more data and the CVR is released, we can confirm. But let's go back to, there was enough of doubt over the mechanical and the electrical, and I'll come to the electronic part later, for them not to have put that line that there are no safety recommendations against Boeing or GE. Why give somebody a clean sheet at the get-go? You've just started your innings and you're declaring it. I mean, how can you do this?
So look, all in all, what is clear is that it is far too early to jump to conclusions. On one side or the other, it may be too early to even say that it is a corporate cover-up, as early as it is to say that it is a murder-suicide. Yes, is it suspicious about how this report was made? Is that a factor that may lead you to believe it was a corporate cover-up? Perhaps. Can you conclude based on that evidence? Absolutely not. And I think we should now, in the discussion around this, not get caught up in the same thing that we were caught up in earlier. We do not have all the facts at our disposal yet. Is it suspicious? Absolutely. But I think we need to wait for the final report. I know one of the points made is that there is actually no deadline on the final report. So there are several plane crashes which they publish an initial report where the law says it needs to be published within 30 days, and there's no deadline on the final report. So this could just go on in limbo forever. So perhaps what we need to push for, more than an accusation to be levied, is a final report. And maybe there can be some kind of law on how long you have before which you have to submit a final report. India is the largest producer of spice in the world. But we are getting a lot of criticism from the global markets right now for contamination found in our global spice exports. Two of India's biggest spice producing brands, Everest and MDH, are going through tremendous scrutiny for alleged contamination in some of its products. Data analysis by Reuters revealed that an average of 14.5% of its US shipments were rejected due to bacterial presence. Now look, this is not the first time we've read reports like this, and it probably won't be the last, as hopeful as we can be. But I do want to just say one thing. There are a few things that India is very, very good at. We are known for these things. Like we spoke about mangoes, when there was this big issue with fake mangoes. And yes, while you may cut a profit in the short run, what you don't realize is that you are destroying things that should be propping our economy up. We are not a country that needs to make fake turmeric or fake mangoes. Look at this report about the turmeric that we ourselves are consuming in our countries. Something that we boast about when we talk about the West and how they adopt our practices and how amazing we are to bring haldi to the West. Look at what we do with our own haldi. It has lead contamination in it, over 200 times what is considered the safe limit. It's mostly just color. It should be used in holi, not in your food. So I think we really have to ask ourselves, what is the point of all this pride in our indigenous practices? What is the point of being so proud that people are having turmeric lattes in a Starbucks in America and being like, we did that for them, and do they even know that this is where it comes from? Well, maybe it's not where it comes from. Maybe they've taken turmeric and actually growing it cleanly over there, and here we are mostly having lead. Wouldn't that be funny, that after all this bragging for turmeric, the only place you can actually end up getting it is abroad? Fortunately, that's not the case yet. There are plenty of organic sources from where you can get your turmeric. And yes, I guess now it's time to pay a premium for something that should be commonplace and easy to get in our country. If you want to feed stray dogs so much, why don't you do it in your own home? This is what the Supreme Court has said to petitioners who alleged harassment against them for feeding the community dogs in public places. I don't know if this is a new style of how courts are giving their verdicts. It kind of reminds me of the vegetarian Momo case we covered a few weeks ago. Hey, why don't you just order from veg-only restaurants? I feel it's like just a strange way to say what they want to say. Now, joking aside, this is actually a pretty divisive issue. I don't think there is anyone who thinks that stray dogs should not be fed and made to go hungry. But there are people who are not as concerned with the welfare of animals as they are with the welfare of humans. And they are, say, okay with more harm happening to an animal to prevent slightly less harm happening to a human. They value human life more than they value the lives of animals, fundamentally. And that is where I think the disjunct occurs. Because there are actually people in this world, and I don't consider myself one of them. I love dogs, I've loved animals my whole life. But I've been called a dog hater for my belief that we should ban Rottweilers and perhaps in some cases even have them taken away from their owners. Because I think they are dangerous dogs and that they can actually cause damage to human life. And while that dog may suffer from being taken away to some extent and maybe taken away from its family, I'm okay with that suffering instead of the suffering that can be caused by, say, a Rottweiler attacking a 4-month-old baby and unaliving it. But I don't hate animals. I think animal cruelty should be dealt with extreme force by the law. I think people should be put in jail just as they would be put in jail for being cruel to humans. I feel like I've gone on a long ass rant about this Rottweiler thing. So, yeah, let's dive into this. NDTV has gone and interviewed some of the public who are both for and against this ruling regarding stray dogs.
First question to you, that you've seen how the Supreme Court has said that the protection will be given, but at the same time common man should not be attacked. How do you see?
एक्चुअली जो स्ट्रीट डॉग्स हैं उसके लिए या तो मतलब एक कॉमन एरिया बनाया जाए जहाँ पे उसके लिए फूड वगैरह का प्रॉपर वो अरेंजमेंट्स हो, और सोसाइटी में भी थोड़ा मैनेजमेंट को रखना चाहिए कि वो कहीं और ना जाए, इधर उधर ना जाए, एक प्रॉपर एरिया हो जिसमें उसके खाने पीने का और साफ़ सफाई का बिल्कुल ध्यान रखा जाए।
मैं ये देखता हूँ कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो आया है उसके हिसाब से आपने जो स्ट्रीट डॉग हैं, अगर आपने उनको फीड कराना है आप उनको घर पे ले जाके खिलाओ, या आपने घर जो कुत्ते पाल रखे हैं, डॉग्स पाल रखे हैं, उनको भी घर पे फीड कराओ। लोग उसको भी बाहर ले जाके पॉटी भी बाहर कराते हैं, पहला पॉइंट। दूसरा, स्ट्रीट डॉग को फीड कराते हैं जिसकी वजह से फीड करने के चक्कर में डॉग उनके पीछे आते हैं। फिर उसके बाद जो उनको जानते हैं डॉग उनको तो कुछ नहीं कहते, बाकी लोगों को परेशान करते हैं, उनको बाइट करते हैं, और कितने लोगों को, हजारों को बाइट किया है। सबकी कंप्लेंट है, तभी तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक बात पहुंची है। लोगों को इतनी नॉलेज नहीं है, एटलीस्ट आप कर रहे हो, इतना प्यार है तो 10 कुत्ते घर में लेके पाल लो ना।
अटैक डॉग ऐसे कभी करता ही नहीं है। जब तक तुम उसको तुम दूर से उसको मारोगे, भगाओगे, तभी डॉग अग्रेसिव होता है। डॉग को तो खाना, तुम अगर प्यार से, अगर वो आ रहा है तुम उसको प्यार से हाथ भी फेर दोगे, डॉग कभी काटेगा ही नहीं, कभी नहीं काटेगा डॉग। तो तुम दूर से उसको देख के मारना शुरू कर दोगे तो डॉग तो मारेगा ही। अपनी जान तो हर किसी को प्यारी होती है, इंसान को भी प्यारी होती है, तो डॉग है।
She actually does have a point. I got this message about the Rottweiler thing again. Someone saying that, dude, Rottweilers are totally loving, chill dogs. They've been trained to be aggressive. Conditions have made them aggressive. But they're not innately aggressive. Well, past the point, I don't care what conditions made who what. If they're aggressive now, and they have been trained to be aggressive for generations, now that's bled into their bloodline. And even if you take an individual dog like a stray dog, yes, I know most of them are not hateful dogs. But the fact is that unfortunately people have been cruel to them in the past. And there's a cycle of violence that occurs with these dogs where people have been cruel to them, so they maybe have a fear of some people and they get a sense that this person may be cruel and they may lash out and bite. And they may be very wrong in their assessment of people as well. I have ridden cycles a lot and I have been chased by a lot of dogs. Trust me, you will not feel much sympathy for them when it looks like, they're going to rip your leg off. I know pedestrians who've been attacked by stray dogs. Their videos are playing on the screen throughout this whole interview. How do you think that girl felt when 8 dogs are mauling her? She was just walking on the road listening to music. She was not messing with them or doing that backflip over them like that viral Instagram clip that's going on right now. So, yeah, dogs kuch karte hi nahi is also a bit ridiculous.
अब और फीड किसी के यहाँ करते हैं और पॉटी किसी पड़ोसी के घर पे जाके करते हैं। इसके अलावा जो लोग घर पे भी पालते हैं, अभी आप मॉर्निंग में थोड़ी देर पहले निकल जाइए, सब सड़कों पे होंगे अपने अपने डॉग के साथ, किसी के साथ स्कूप नहीं होगा किसी के पास, और सब फीड डॉग को पॉटी शूशू सड़क पे ही करा रहे होंगे।
100% agree. This is a big issue with dogs. This is not even about stray dogs. But in general, yeah, there's poop all over the roads, and this is about the not in my backyard attitude. Why do you let your dog walk the street and let it poop over there and bring it back in? Let it poop in your house. So yes, I'm being a bit facetious when I say bring all your dogs in, but there is a not in my backyard attitude when it comes to a lot of Indians. We want to do good, but not if it makes my place a little messy. Easy to set the food out there for a dog, a bunch of rice and a piece of paper. But then you leave right after that. What happens to that leftover rice and the piece of paper that is now trash on our streets? And you have gone home doing good. I want to talk about this story along with a story that's more central to Mumbai, which is the banning of our Kabutar Khanas. These are places where people for years and decades have congregated to feed pigeons. How beautiful, how lovely, how causing respiratory diseases due to feathers and pigeon shit. People are out of their minds sometimes. There's a protest going on to prevent the banning of these Kabutar Khanas. And I am all for criticizing the BMC. Please go look at all the videos we make criticizing the BMC. But this is one thing which they're doing as what appears to be a genuine public health concern. Hey, people are getting respiratory diseases because there are a lot of pigeon feathers and pigeon crap and poop lying all over the place. And if we stop feeding these pigeons here, less people will fall sick, less humans will fall sick. There's a protest going on now to peacefully feed these pigeons. This is especially odd because this is one of those things the BMC is doing that I can't imagine how they are privately profiteering of this. Is this some big conspiracy to attack the bird feed market? And they're going to make money in stocks because stocks of bird feed products, they're just doing this because people are falling sick. I can't imagine. You know what they're doing with the space of the Kabutar Khanas? They're building traffic islands, places where pedestrians can safely stand in the midst of our 12-way traffic that we have in this city. Yeah, it's a safety measure for people, and yeah, they can't make any money off it because people are just standing there. They're not going to do some government contract greed, build some stuff there. If they do, then maybe I'll change my argument about why they're doing it. But as of now, it doesn't feel like that. When people report sort of against this movement, they're like, the BMC official went in a closed room meeting with a few residents or few stakeholders or few citizens and made their decision based on that. And if they listened to their citizenry and responded to what most of the people want, I think that's their job. If most people want to get rid of these Kabutar Khanas because of increasing respiratory illness, that is how the BMC should be responding to the problem. I'm sure if more people got in a closed room with them than wanted it, they would have done it the other way, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So before you make it seem like everything the BMC does is a big issue, just take a look at what they are actually doing and try to see, does this seem like something a body that is concerned with our public health and safety should do? If yes, then sometimes just be okay with it and then maybe see into how they are implementing it. Anyways, I think that's all we'll say on these topics. I wanted to talk about these stories together because, again, it's that broader point about, look, do you value humans' lives more than you value animals' lives? And I think that's a base philosophical position people should consider. Whichever way you fall, you should try to understand where you approach these arguments from. Those are our stories for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please go like this video, subscribe to this channel, go check us out on Instagram. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. As always, I'm Rohan Paranjpe. This is The Overcorrection. Thank you for watching.